Happy Tuesday. All right, we got a little bit of a late start here. Somehow the link I created for today's coaching when I went to start this call, it said it was expired. I don't know. So hopefully you saw the email. I blasted out really fast with the new link. If you're joining us, you couldn't get on live and you're watching the replay, that's okay too. Remember, all is well. So I'm going to go ahead and get started. I have a feeling there's going to be some of you popping in. That's great. The chat is open. The Q&A is open. Feel free to leave things in there. But we are ready for part 8 of our 10-part series on unlocking emotional freedom. We are going to keep it to 10 parts, and we're going to finish it at the end of August because I'm already thinking about what I want to do in September, and I'm so excited for the teaching that I'm going to be bringing you in September. It's going to be really powerful. I just have to find somebody to come in and help me teach it. So let's get to it. Today, we're going to talk about changing your emotional state by processing your emotions. And I love to say, change your emotions, change your life. And I want to share a little story with you. I have a friend from grade school going through something very difficult right now, going through a divorce, and she's been posting things on Facebook. And in her eyes, I don't know the whole story. In her eyes, it's just not working out in her favor. And you can tell that what we're going to talk about today, this thing that we get addicted to, that she is in that place. And as I was writing this teaching, I just kept thinking of her and how much this work would change her life, completely change her life. And because she's very much in victim mentality right now instead of hero mentality. And I just want to remind you, if you're feeling hopeless, helpless, broken, like there's no way escaping what's been done to you, that what we talk about today and the culmination of this 10-part series is the thing that you need to change your life. And it starts by learning to change your emotions. So we're going to dive into that, and we're going to talk about that and how we do that. I'm going to give you some specifics. So this whole change your emotions, change your life, I so believe that it is true. And one of the reasons I believe it is because I have seen it transpire in my own life. I've seen it transpire in my clients' lives. And so I want to start with giving a little bit of some background info. There are 2 primary emotional states. There's the sympathetic nervous system, which activates your fight or flight. And then there's the parasympathetic nervous system. And that regulates everything else: digestion, reproduction, creativity. It's your rest and digest system. And these 2 systems are governed by 2 main emotions. And I've talked about this. I know we talked about this in a coaching call and maybe even a previous teaching, but there's these 2 main emotions. There's fear and there's love. So obviously when you're in the sympathetic nervous system, you're in your fear emotions. And when you're in the parasympathetic nervous system, you're in the love emotions. And even just explaining the 2 nervous systems, one is fight or flight, one is creativity, reproduction, digestion, rest. It's so easy to be like, oh, I want to be in my parasympathetic nervous system, right? So one of the things that I love to do is I love to ask myself, am I operating from fear or love? Am I anxious and nervous and stressed and coming from that place? Or am I grateful and rested and creative and coming from that place? And this dear friend of mine, I can see that she is showing up from her sympathetic nervous system, and it's just in overdrive right now. And so I want you to ask yourself, like, which system do you think your body prefers to live in? And there's no right or wrong. Like there is no right or wrong to this. It's just a matter of becoming aware so that you can change your emotions where they need to be changed or where you want to change them. So if you said, the sympathetic nervous system, or I mean, if you said the parasympathetic nervous system, you were right. That's the one your body prefers. It's the healing system for your body. Now, do we need the sympathetic nervous system? Like, can we just try to avoid it at all costs? No, we can't, because we need it in case of emergencies. We need it when there's a fire. We need it when there's danger. We need it when somebody's hurt. Like, but we were never designed to live in our sympathetic nervous system. And what do you think happens most often when we experience infidelity in our marriage? Yep. We get stuck in the sympathetic nervous system, or what we call the fear emotions. And, oh, I lost my notes here. Hold on just a minute. They're there. So when we're stuck in that sympathetic nervous system, it's not good for our bodies. It weakens our immune system. It causes dis-ease in the body. And so one of the things that we have to actively do, this is just part of our journey, it's part of our healing journey. One of the things we have to actively do is work to retrain our bodies to come from the place of the parasympathetic nervous system. Okay, that's all we're doing. We're just learning to retrain. So today we're going to talk about processing emotions, because that's the key to changing your emotions. And we don't love negative emotions. Nobody loves them, but we do get addicted to them, and we do get stuck in them. And then our bodies and our brains love to go to work to feed us stories as to why we still feel the way we do. And going back to this dear friend, I can see it in her posts. Her brain is offering her so many reasons why she should still be feeling all the fear emotions that she's feeling. And because she has never done this work, she doesn't see a way out right now. It's almost like she's got tunnel vision of all the negative, all the fear emotions, all the fight or flight, all the things. And so then it's, when you get into that place, then you start catastrophizing everything in your life. And everything is bad and everything is falling apart. And I want to say changing your life is as simple as changing your emotions. But changing your emotions isn't that simple. That's the issue. If it were, everybody would be doing it right and left. Everybody would be healing from trauma and big emotional charges. And so that's the work. Although the concept is simple, the work is not simple, but it's so worth it. Okay? I promise you, it is so worth it. So one of the ways that you can get there, that you can change your emotions, is to learn to process your emotions. Emotions are just the language of the body. And we often hold emotions in our bodies. We suppress them, we act on them, but not as often do we just actually process them and allow them. And we've been talking about this in the other parts of this series, but today we're going to do this a little bit of a deep dive into exactly how to process emotions. And I've got, I think it's 8, maybe 9 ways to do that. I want you to remember in last week's teachings, I said that this processing, this learning of emotional intelligence will take time. Don't think that you can watch this video and you can do all these things and all of a sudden everything is going to be great and your emotions are going to be improved. No. It takes time and work. But when you know what you need to do in order to change, you can get started. So when we experience infidelity and betrayal, our bodies have a record of that memory of that emotional charge. And then it likes to just replay it over and over again. And the emotional state that you want to be in after the betrayal, I'm guessing, is an emotional state of peace and joy and trust and feeling alive, right? Okay. And we think that our circumstances have to change, or our husband has to change, or something has to change in order for us to feel those good emotions. But you can begin to feel those emotions without anything else changing. And when you do that, then you start to see your life change. So the first part is waking up to what emotional state are you in? And we've talked about this already in the earlier teachings. So I want you to start to feel more rested, more relaxed, more at home in your body. And the way you do that is we're going to work on processing these emotions that are coming up for you. Triggers, they call them triggers, are big places where you get a big emotional charge. And then what you do with that emotional charge determines where your life takes you and where your healing journey takes you. And so when you have these tools in place, you can learn to process that emotional charge instead of it just knocking you off your feet. So, are you ready and willing to do the work to change your emotions? Because I want you living as the highest version of yourself after the infidelity, because I know that that's available for you. It's available for me, it's available for you, and that's what I want for you. So how do we change our emotions so that we can change our life? Here's how we do that. First, you have to become aware. You have to name the emotion. And sometimes doing something physical can help you try to even become aware, but that's the first step. And we've talked about that in the previous teachings. So number one way I'm going to suggest and these are in no particular order, you have to find the ones that work for you. But number one, this is huge, and this works for probably 99% of the people, is movement. They're literally, I don't know if there is a better way to process anger and frustration than through movement. And when I was going through my divorce, I picked up running. And I picked it up for a few reasons. If you've been on my email list for a while, you've gotten my email about this story. But I ended up coining those runs angry runs, because it was where I would run out my anger and my frustration. And I can tell you, I didn't know this work. I didn't know I was doing this work. I didn't understand how the runs were actually helping me process anger. But looking back now, I see it and I'm like, oh, that's why when I would get done running, I felt so much better than when I started. Because it was helping me move that anger through my body and process it so that I could come up. Because if I hadn't taken that run, I probably would have sat and stewed and let that anger just simmer and grow and fester. And I didn't like that person. And so those runs were so good for me without even me really understanding the mechanics behind it, the science behind it, all of that. So I want you to think about processing emotions like digesting your food. Emotions are like the digesting and the processing of your life. So my doctor I have an amazing functional medicine doctor. She is wonderful. And she loves dancing as a way to process emotions. And she tells me to just put on music and just do some dancing around the room. Well, that's just not really me, but it might be you. I'm just not a dancer. Like, I have 2 left feet. I don't enjoy that. I have been known to break out into dancing in the kitchen, and I look back now and I'm like, that was my body getting out this emotion that was stuck in there and I just needed to move it out. But maybe it's time to pick up pickleball. I don't know. If you've got teenagers, they're probably into pickleball. My college age kids are into pickleball, and so we've got the equipment, and as soon as my arm is healed, I'm gonna pick up pickleball, and that will be good for me. Going to the gym. My current favorite is walking, and taking emotion walks are a great way to do that. So leave the music at home, leave the audiobook at home, and just go take a walk. And while you're on that walk, ask yourself things like, what am I feeling? Where am I feeling it? Does it feel tight, heavy, strong, weak, red, pink? And then as you're walking, just keep bringing your thoughts and your mind back to your body so that you can become more aware of what you're feeling in your body. And that is one of the most powerful ways to process emotions. Okay, number 2 is journaling. So when you sit down to journal, I want you to ask yourself some questions like, why is this emotion trying to get my attention? How is it trying to get my attention? if this emotion was a message from someone who loves me, what would the message be? And just, you know, it's so easy to, when we sit down to journal, to just write a to-do list of all the things we need to get done. And maybe you need to do that first to like get it off of your brain. But then I want you to keep it, just like with the walk, I want you to keep bringing it back to your emotions in your journaling, and keep bringing it back to that and writing it out and writing it out. And that can be very powerful as well. Number 3, music. You know, we've talked about dancing and music kind of go together, but also creating a playlist of songs that resonate with you. I have actually been working on compiling some songs that I think will be, make a great joy-bound playlist. And so I'm going to keep working on that, and I will share that soon with you, of just some great uplifting songs that just, they have resonated with me, and I think they'll resonate with you. The 4th way you can process emotions is breathing. And there's one called box breathing. There's the 4-4-4-4 method, where you inhale for 4, hold it for 4, breathe out for 4, hold it for 4. Someday we will do a whole teaching on breathing, and maybe even get more of an expert in here, and I'll give you some examples, but you can Google some breathing techniques. And also you can just like remind yourself to take deep, really deep, strong breaths. And even that just is going to bring you back to your breath. And when you just, the more you connect with your body, the more you connect with your emotions. Number 5 is get coaching. Show up weekly to our weekly calls, raise your hand to get coached, because a good coach is often going to be able to help you like uncover some emotions that maybe you haven't even figured out that you've been buffering or shoving down below the surface and not processing. Number 6, give your emotions an outlet. So crying, screaming, punching something. When my son was younger, probably about 3, he had some real anger, real bursts of anger, and he didn't know what to do with them. And often he would end up hitting me. And so I taught him when he was and I think part of what it was his intellectual ability had so far surpassed his speaking ability. He was slow to talk but it was super intelligent, and he couldn't quite communicate things, and he would get really frustrated. And so I taught him to go into his bedroom and get his pillow and punch his pillow to move that anger out of his body. And he would do that. He would go in there, he'd punch that pillow, he'd come back out, totally different kid. And I'm so grateful that I had the foresight to teach him how to do that. All right, number 7. This isn't one I recommend all the time, but it is one that is necessary sometimes. Redirection or distraction. So this one is not always, like I said, it's not always the best or the first choice, but sometimes we're in a situation where you can't process the emotion in the moment. And so when you're in that particular situation, then you want to be able to redirect or distract yourself until you can get yourself into a safe place to process that emotion. And finally, number 8 is prayer and meditation. And this one is really big for me. It's a great way to help you get into gratitude. It was a great way for me to calm my nerves. I'm Catholic, so we pray something called the Rosary, which is looks like a necklace, and it's got these beads on it, and you say particular prayers with each bead. I nearly wore out my rosary when I was going through all of my deeply emotional divorce journey, because prayer was that powerful for me. I had a rosary hanging in the shower, and I prayed in the shower, and it was another great way. I love to read the Psalms and meditate on the Psalms. Those are very powerful for helping to process emotions. So, I've given you 8 different ways here. You can do a combination of them. You can try them out, see what works for you. But the most important part of this is the actually becoming aware. And we've talked about that before, and that's the thing we had been working on previously, because then once you become aware, then you can process. And when I first started doing this work, I was so unaware of my emotions. So I have come so far in that. And now I'm in the stage of really, really learning to process. Okay, so these 8 examples, I'm gonna put them all into a printable, and I'll link that in the teaching. I'll try to get that done this week. My mother-in-law is in the hospital. Actually, we brought her home last night, but she still can't be left alone, and so we are spending a lot of time helping her. So I'm working in little pockets of time. But what I want to say is, if you have you have control over changing your life. And this is one of the ways you do that. Do you have control over whether or not your husband cheats? No. Do you have control on whether or not he leaves the marriage? No. But you do have control over so much of your life and the way you show up in your life. And that's the most important part. And allowing and processing your emotions is one of the ways that you get to take back control of your life. Next week, we're going to talk about like creating emotions on purpose. And when you learn these 2 things of creating emotions on purpose and then processing and changing the emotion that you're in, you're just going to start to see the world around you change, and you'll start to see your life change. Okay, that is all I have for our teaching this week. As always, if you have questions, bring them to the coaching call tomorrow, and we will work through whatever it is, or maybe you have a question on something different. Just going to check the chat and Q&A real quick, make sure that nobody left anything in there. Okay, that is our teaching for this week. I hope that was helpful for you. Like I said last week, if you aren't ready for where we are right now, go back to the beginning of these teachings and start there and slowly work your way through them. This is like, we're getting into the advanced teachings of emotional intelligence. And this is a process and it takes time. And so don't beat yourself up if you hear me talking today and you're like, I don't even see how I could ever get to this place. That's okay. It just means you're not ready for what we taught today. And you need to go back to the beginning and just take it slow. Okay. And then show up for coaching, because I can help you figure out where you are in the process and how we can move you forward. And I want that for you. So, okay. I will see you tomorrow for our coaching call. Love you. Bye.